Imagine waking up in a world 2,000 years before your own. No comms, no extraction, no backup, just you, your squad, and everything you carried on your back, dropped into the beating heart of the Roman Empire. This isn't science fiction. This is a tactical thought experiment. What happens when the most elite warriors in human history meet the most powerful empire the ancient world ever knew? The first few minutes would be pure chaos. Roman soldiers patrolling the streets would see men in strange gear helmets with night vision mounts, plate carriers covered in pouches, weapons unlike anything they'd ever imagined. But here's the thing, Roman legionaries weren't cowards. These were battle-hardened professionals who conquered most of the known world. They wouldn't run. They'd form up, raise shields, and advance. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. A single Special Forces operator carries an assault rifle with roughly 30 rounds per magazine, a sidearm, fragmentation grenades, and possibly a light machine gun. Against swords and shields, this is devastating. One operator could hold off a century of 80 men for a while, but ammunition is finite. Each soldier carries maybe 7 magazines. That's 210 rounds, in a sustained fight that runs dry in minutes. And this is where Rome fights back. The Roman military wasn't just large, it was brilliantly organized. A single legion numbered 5,000 men. The empire had 30 of them. That's 150,000 professionally trained soldiers, supported by auxiliary forces, siege engineers, and a logistics network that stretched from Britain to Egypt. You don't beat that with a dozen guys and some rifles. But special forces aren't trained to fight armies head-on. They're trained to think. And that's where the real advantage kicks in. These soldiers carry 2,000 years of accumulated military knowledge in their heads. Guerrilla warfare, counterinsurgency, psychological operations. They understand concepts the Romans haven't even imagined yet. What if instead of fighting Rome, they offered to serve it? A smart team leader would realize something quickly. The most powerful position isn't as Rome's enemy. It's as Rome's most valuable asset. Walk into a legion commander's tent, demonstrate your weapons, share your knowledge of strategy and engineering, and suddenly you're not prisoners, you're advisors. Rome valued military excellence above almost everything else. Men who could prove their worth on the battlefield were respected regardless of where they came from. Here's where it gets fascinating. A special forces engineer knows the formula for gunpowder. Black powder is just charcoal, sulfur, and potassium nitrate, all available in the ancient world. Within weeks, you could have crude explosives. Within months, basic cannons. Hand this technology to Roman engineers who already built aqueducts and siege weapons, and you've just jumped military technology forward by 1,000 years. It's not just weapons. A combat medic understands germ theory, antibiotics, sterilization. In ancient Rome, a battlefield wound was often a death sentence, not from the wound itself, but from infection. Introduce basic hygiene to Roman field hospitals, and you'd save thousands of lives. The Romans would think you were performing miracles. And in their eyes, men who could heal the unhealable were touched by the gods themselves. But Rome wasn't just a military machine, it was a political snake pit. Emperors were assassinated regularly, generals plotted against each other, the Praetorian Guard sold the throne to the highest bidder. A team with knowledge of how empires rise and fall would see every political trap before it was set. They'd know which emperors to back, which senators to avoid, and exactly when the next crisis would hit. And that's the real question. Not whether a dozen soldiers could survive ancient Rome. They probably could. The real question is what happens to history when you introduce modern knowledge to the most efficient empire on Earth. Rome already lasted 1,000 years. With gunpowder, modern medicine, and advanced military tactics, the fall of Rome might never happen. The Dark Ages might never begin. The entire trajectory of human civilization shifts, but there's a paradox none of them could escape. Every advantage they bring comes from a future that only exists because Rome eventually fell. The Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, the military training they carry, all of it was born from the ashes of the empire they're now propping up. Change Rome's fate, and you might erase the very world that created you. So could modern special forces survive ancient Rome? Absolutely. Could they thrive? Almost certainly. But could they resist the temptation to reshape the world in their image? That's the question history never had to answer. And maybe that's for the best, because some doors once opened can never be closed again.